Laptops and desktop. Let's find out what's going to happen, what would happen if your laptop gets damaged. Coming up next, we got Mike Nadelman from ComputerRepair.com, and he's here to tell us what you do if you have a laptop mishap. Laptops are amazing tools. They're portable, convenient, and powerful. The only thing is they're a bit more delicate than desktop computers, and that sometimes leads to damage. And that's where Mike Nadelman from Computer-Repair.com comes in, and he's going to tell us what to do when something goes wrong. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Hi, Chris. How are you?
You don't have any baby powder with you today, do you?
Not today.
Okay, good enough. So what happens, this is probably the first question I want to ask, what happens if you drop a laptop and there's no image, but you want to get the data back as soon as possible?
Well, a lot of people panic. I mean, you know, we take laptops for granted a lot of times, and we just drop them, you know. And, oh, I'm sorry, this was the producers.
I'm not, George, honestly, you didn't know he was going to do that. It'll be fine. He knows what he's doing.
This was a good laptop. Anyway, no problem. You know, what you do is you go to the nearest monitor you can find.
Okay.
Plug it in.
With a VGA through the back of the monitor, the back of the laptop may have VGA in. Okay. And,
you know, if the screen is screwed up.
Damaged. Wow.
Like this one is.
So it looks kind of nasty here.
Kind of a cool little display here, but you can't read anything.
Psychedelic, yeah, look at this.
If you plug it into your external monitor, you can usually see everything, and if you hit the keystroke, which is, in this case, is a function F8, you can see everything.
You want me to tap it? Here. Tap function F8, you said?
Yeah.
Chris, tilt that white one forward. Tilt the white one forward if you can.
Oh, so I hit function F. There we go. Now it's warming up. There we go. So now it's a perfect. The laptop's perfect. It's just that the screen right now is beyond repair.
Beyond repair, but it is actually repairable for a cost.
Oh, of course, but that cost may just, you might as well go out and get an entirely new laptop at that point, or?
In some cases, yeah. Best thing, give us a call, send us an email, we'll tell you how much it'll cost to replace.
Now, speaking of screens, what if my screen just goes ultra dim and I can't adjust it?
Well, that's not as serious as you might think.
Okay.
As long as it's not cracked inside, there's a couple of components. Here's a fluorescent bulb. This is really the gas guzzler part of your laptop. This is the backlight.
Okay.
It's a fluorescent tube, about 2 millimeters thick.
And this sucks all the juice out of the power?
And this is the power supply for it.
Wow.
This is a high voltage power supply, creates from 12 volts, creates 80 volts.
Okay, so if your screen is too dim, it maybe the bulb kind of got burnt out?
Maybe the bulb's burned out, or maybe this inverter board went out.
Okay. Well, what if the hinges are too tight and I can't loosen it?
Well, you should actually have that fixed immediately.
Okay.
And the reason is, we see laptops all the time that, like this poor soul, that actually broke the plastic. Now, this is a major repair now, whereas if they had had the hinges replaced at the time when they were tight, or they were loose,
so it just, you know,
they would
like, always you have to detect early. That's what he's saying, right?
Early detection.
Early detection for
Absolutely.
laptops. Yeah. Okay. What if a laptop is on fire? And, well, obviously, you know, you don't want it to be on fire, but let's say it was on fire. Is there any way to save that data once the laptop's kind of been burned?
Well, the first thing is don't put it in the bathtub.
Okay.
You don't want to put it in the bathtub. You want to let it cool off. You know, put it somewhere where the fire is going to go out.
Okay.
The data is actually recoverable as long as you haven't submersed it.
So you said that the data from this particular laptop was still recoverable?
All this data on this laptop was recovered.
Okay, and that was, of course, sitting on the hard drive where all the data usually sits.
Believe it or not, I mean, if it's not hot enough to melt the plastic too much, it's not going to destroy the hard disk.
Okay. Well, these are all fine and dandy, but what is the most common laptop mishap?
Well, the most common is, you know, we get calls all the time, people spilling wine, spilling water in the laptop.
Whoa, Becky?
Not a problem. Really not a problem. Water is actually the most innocuous part.
Really?
You take the laptop, shake it upside down, remove the battery immediately.
Okay.
Turn it off, of course, unplug it from the AC adapter. Make sure there's no power on it. Do not be anxious and say, oh, well, I've dumped the water out, I'm going to turn it back on. Wait a day.
Okay, so don't do it all the time. I mean, don't do it right away.
Don't turn it back on. Wait a day. Unless, of course, if it's soda or wine or something caustic, definitely
Okay.
bring it into the repair shop immediately.
All right. So you're saying that water's okay, but other stuff is not okay, like other sticky stuff, like soda and
Sticky
wine
stuff,
and,
usually you have to have the keyboard replaced.
Or like-
but you really want to keep the soda off of the circuit board because the circuit board will get damaged by the soda.
Okay. So in terms of like prices for repairing stuff, what does it usually range? Like again, going back to the damaged screen, how much would that cost to actually fix?
A damaged screen runs anywhere from $700 to $1,500.
Wow.
Pretty expensive.
Yeah, that's very expensive. What about
So-
the bulb?
This bulb is about $80. The inverter board's also about $80. Generally, it's one or the other that's bad.
But is that the actual part?
The actual
or
part. The
is it-
total repair is about $300.
Okay, so how much can you expect in terms of labor costs for repairing these parts on top of
It depends on where you're having it repaired. If you send it back to the factory, they may try and sell you the whole new screen assembly. If you send it to a repair shop and they know what they're doing, and they know where to get the bulbs, they don't have to go back to the factory to get the actual bulb, because really these screens are not made by the actual manufacturers. They're made by third parties,
Sure.
Samsung, Hitachi.
Sony, I believe, still does.
Sony
Sharp?
doesn't make their own.
The Sharp?
Sharp makes their own
Makes the
screen.
screens?
However, for their laptop, they probably use somebody else's.
Oh, most likely. I guess this begs the question, we're talking about taking it in. Is it wise to try to repair your own laptop? I mean, people do it with desktops all the time, but laptops seem to be a more delicate piece of equipment. Would you recommend that?
Well, we don't sell parts, but the parts we do sell are things like memory upgrades. Those are things generally are pretty safe for a consumer to put in, for a user to put in.
As far as upgrades go?
Yeah.
But
Part of the problem is that knowing where the screws are for the hinges, knowing how to get into it, that's really something that takes experience and looking where to get into it without damaging the casing.
Or Becky's laptop or George's
I mean,
laptop.
we get people all the time. They want to increase the drive space. This is a 9mm thick drive.
9 millimeters. There we go.
This is a 12mm thick drive.
It's 12 millimeters.
And this is a desktop drive, just for comparison.
Wow.
These are all the same size drives. But
Really? Like, so how much? How big?
These are
4
probably
gigabytes?
Yeah, 4 gigs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, thank you, Mike, for stopping by. Really appreciate it. I think the next time we have you in, we're going to be talking a little bit more about laptops. I think maybe buying tips. Was that it? Was that the?
Buying tips, tips on what to look for in service, that kind of thing.
Very good. I'll need that because I'm thinking about getting my own laptop soon. So if you want to learn more about laptop care, you can log on to our website, techtv.com/call-for-help. Mike has a really helpful article posted there about 10 laptop rescue tips. And coming up next, class is in session as Silicon Alley teaches us how to talk and how to add a fixed background to a web page when Call for Help continues.